Hello and welcome back to the main stage of mdevcamp 2020. So I have a few organizational updates for you. Apart from using Slido for questions that you are using, I hope so, we are also doing rating of our talks, of our speakers. So at the end of the talk, I will post a poll to Slido and please rate it. Also, we are recording all of the talks. The recordings will be available until the end of June for all of you. So don't worry if you miss any other talks in the other stages. It's all right. You will be able to watch them later. You can also tweet using the hashtag mdevcamp and applying in our 3D world. I hope you are not having any technical problems, and I hope that you are networking and visiting our partner stands where there are many surprises for you. So let's not waste any more time. Our next speaker is Aleksandra Komagorkina from London. She started in chemistry first, but then she gradually became interested in environmental impact of mobile apps. So now she focuses on developing energy efficient apps, and that's the topic of her talk. So welcome, Alexandra. Now you will have 45 minutes for your talk. At the end of it, there will be 5 minutes for questions from Slido, and after that, there will be 15 minutes in the 3D world to go and meet the audience, and they can ask you any more questions in a video chat. So the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much, Bara. So hi again. We will be talking about I will be giving you the ultimate guide to battery optimization. I hope everything works because sometimes our video parts glitching slightly, but we will see. So what this talk will be about, we will be talking why we should care about the batteries in general, what are the most consuming battery consuming elements on the phones, on iPhones, and we will be obviously discussing the ways we can make our apps more energy efficient, and we will discuss what we can look for, which tools we have and how can we use them, and I will show you some examples with common and not so problems, so we can see it on the example. So what is optimized battery? App with optimized battery anyway. It is a very hard question to actually answer, and if you look to what Apple is talking about, that they suggest that in ideal case, a user can survive, get through the day with a single charge, and that would be the ideal scenario. So all the apps which are on their device of a user should contribute in the battery consumption in such way that the user will survive through the day with a single charge, which is very complicated to discuss in general because users are different. Their preferences according to the apps in general are different. But we will try to dig in and understand what we can do here. So why should we care as developers about the battery consumption? First, it is efficiency. Every developer in some way is proud about their efficient, fast, and thought-through code. It is also, Apple says that it is your obligation as a developer to think about even small inefficiencies or in your apps, because they add up and they significantly affect in the battery life, which is also lead to the performance problems, to responsiveness problems, and so on. So it is our obligation to make our app as efficient as possible, as less battery consuming as possible. That's the first thing. Second, it is performance. And the performance is very closely related to battery optimization, and vice versa. We will see today in examples that we always want a good performance, so why not? And the third thing, which is personally make me think about this topic 1 year ago, something like that, it's the global impact. And I gave a talk last year a few times about how we could make our world a better place through writing a better code. It was a time when we will be all more thoughtful. Then the problem of ecology in general was very sharp, and everyone wanted to contribute as they could. And I came up with an idea: what if we can, by writing a better code, make our apps more energy efficient, and then in total it will contribute to the global consumption of electricity. So it actually does contribute, if you think about it globally, because, as I said, all little things add up, and in total it makes a big difference in the picture. So it's also a global impact. But also, while I've been giving that talk, I get lots of questions. So like, I understand why I should do that. It's just good. It's a good thing to do. It's also very beneficial for me. But the main question, which people have been asking me, is why my manager should care about it. What should I say to my team to convince them to care about battery drainage and to care about battery optimization? So first thing, optimizing performance also often leads to the battery usage optimization, as I already said. So it means users have better experience with your app, so you have more happy users there. Also, the optimized apps with optimized battery usage also get advantage in front of the competitors. So you will get advantage to conquer the competitors' users, which is also good. Also, it means longer sessions, so users might spend more time with your app. So it is also a really, really good thing. So both these cases contributes to the number of users you have in your app. And it's also lots of long-term benefits, because as soon as you start thinking about the battery early, maybe you never thought about it and you start to do it right now, with time you will understand. But there is lots of parts of code which is already optimized, and it will be better and easier for you with time to do so. It will be much easier to read it and to understand it. And the last thing what I want to say about that is that often, if you just ask yourself a question, whether I should so you go to a manager or to your team and say, like, we should optimize the battery. And they said, like, but we should think more about performance. And you see that these issues are connected in somehow. And you see there are like lots of low-hanging fruits which you can pick instantly. Some things are very easy to fix just in a few lines of code, and it will not take a lot of time. And it will significantly improve the battery optimization in general. So this is like this Paleo rule, so like this 80 to 20. So if you can just by making very simple work already contribute a lot, that's a really good case and everyone will be happy. So what actually drains energy on the phone? And as we have a deep dive talk today, I really deep dived into that. I read a few research papers, and it's not that much of them. And actually, the only one which is research papers which is made on it is the research which is about how energy is drained on the mobile phones. This is a big topic, and lots of research is done, mostly on the Android-based phones. So it's hard to say anything specifically about the iPhones, but what I read there is that they made a bunch of tests. They were trying to see how different components affect the battery usage, and so we will say, and they came up to the results that the CPU, memory, wireless network modules, and so on, they contribute and they consume the most of energy on the phone. which is just the same thing that Apple says on the most of their videos. They've been trying to do tests like reducing the charging frequency to extend battery operating life in general, because it's a physical thing. It does die someday, it does wears. So it is also to think about the global impact. So if you contribute to the battery health in general, users might change their batteries in their phone less. So, and the main thing about these researchers is that on the iPhone, everything should drain the energy. And but the thing is that Apple already, they're using lithium batteries, as most of the phones does. And they didn't change interiors at all. So the physical state of the batteries is not changing. That's why that's not that much of battery life in general. There's not much increase in battery life in general what we see. So the everything is improving, like displays, cameras, everything becoming better, but the batteries are still stay as it does, and the only way to optimize them is to use integrated hardware and software, and to have a system support here. And if we talk about that, next slide. Yeah. Just a second. I hope it's not crashing. Just wait a second. I will try to just follow up. So what I wanted to say is that we don't have to worry that much, and already lots of work is done by Apple itself. So it's built-in technologies which we have in iOS, which is, doesn't go further. Maybe I will try to relaunch the presentation. No, just a second. We couldn't get through it. Well, problems. Okay. Let's just. I hope everybody hear me now. So, as I said, lots of things are already included, provided to us by Apple, and they're doing a lot of work to optimize everything that we will get the best performance in our app. They provide the APIs, they provide everything. And this is just the list of things that we have there, which is already service the best field. So what we can achieve as developers. So I already told you about the physical state of the batteries, which we don't have any, I mean, we can't do anything about it. The same thing, we can't do anything about the way Apple builds these iPhones, probably, even if they don't listen to us. But what we can achieve as developers, what we can do. So first thing is responsiveness of the app, efficient code, good performance. We can write efficient code which will work fast and does only what it has to do. So if we talk about the battery optimization, the first thing which we need to think about is how we're writing the code, what this line of code is doing, what I'm trying to do, what task I'm trying to achieve, how I want to do it, when I want to do it, how often I want to do it. This is just a few questions which it will be nice to ask yourself each time you are thinking about writing any kind of code. And we also can achieve a great battery life in a device. This will definitely make users' life and probably our lives as well, because we're also users, better. And I'm sure it starts small, but all contributions will add up and will make a big difference in total. It also helps to contribute to the overall physical battery state as well, as I said. And this is together will help us to keep the device cool. And in that case, it will also help a user to use different, to use the device in the full kind of state, because then device is heating up. And remember this year they released the differences in thermal state conditions, so now you can educate how to react to them properly to help the system to make certain changes in your app, and then the device comes to certain conditions when it is extreme, when it is heated. So we will have to avoid it as well in that case. And how we're gonna do it? So I'm actually lied to you slightly when I said that this is the ultimate guide to battery optimization, because I would like you, so I came up with a strategy and I would like you to think about it. It's like the approach. I would like you to think about it as if someone would ask you, as if you would be asking a question, like, what do I do to achieve a perfect health? And you know that there is no ideal recipe or instructions to achieve the best possible health state of your body. And none of the best doctors around the world, not even your best friend or your mom, could answer these questions. You can't Google it and get the perfect instruction, because every situation is different. And that's the same case which works here. But you might, same if we talk about health, you have some general recommendations, which if you follow, they will get you closer to these best results. And this is what I want to provide you today. This is what I came up with. And first thing, if we talk about the strategy, is that your work should be user-driven, because that's the users who own the energy. And all users' attempts to manipulate the interface of your app should result in their feeling the control over the app. And that means that ideally, how this interaction should look like. That would be interaction, respond, and then back to idle. Ideally. It's not possible in real life in most cases, but sometimes for simple apps, it will work perfectly. This is the ideal situation. It also means that if your app is serving specific purposes, it should ideally do only them. So if you have these cases, then this situation is not for you. You can still come to the simplification of what you're doing. Also, just that's why I don't know what happened. Then we should. Then the next stage is prioritizing work, and this is very, very important here, as well as it works with performance and just works in general in your life. Always think first, what are you gonna do? I already asked you a few questions, like if you want to do something, when do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? How often do you want to do it? For which purposes does it solve? How long in general? Maybe you don't need it all the time in your app. You want to do that. Does this feature worth the effort and the sacrifice which you might get in terms of performance and battery optimization. This is just, so the priorities which we set here, they should also contribute to the first rule of the user-driven work. And we have the last one. And this is tricky. This is trusting the system. It doesn't work ideally yet, but it certainly will in some point, because Apple does a lot of work contributing to help us to communicate with the system, to explain us how to use it properly. I already briefly explained how smart it is already, so like about the built-in things which we have there. But what we should do, we should learn how it works, how to communicate with fluently, how to delegate questions related to user decisions whenever it's possible. And the most important thing here is that, like, when you deferring tasks, you can batch them together, you can defer it for the better time, and you can ask the system to decide when it is suitable for the system inside the phone in general. So these 3 rules, this is just the approach which you might have, not just to optimize the battery, but in general while you're building the apps. So this is just the approach to build the app. It's just the approach how to mean good, how to think about it. If you will just think about these 3 things every time you build the app, you will most probably improve the battery consumption of your apps in some time. So if you'll just think, bear them in mind, start to, like, really, they will come up in your mind every time you build in your code. In 1 year, everything will improve significantly, even without the hard work. So trust the system, think about the user first, and prioritize your work. For all of that, we have tools provided by Apple to track what is going on when the app is using to test certain lines of code. And these tools are not new. So it's Energy Debugger and Xcode, it's Xcode instruments, and it's Xcode metrics. I will walk through a few of them later in the talk. But the good thing here is, if you will do it, if you will run instruments or just look into the debugger on a periodic basis, everything will be much better and you will see how it's going on. I will briefly mention METRICKIT at the end, and Xcode instruments I will be mostly talking about the time profiler and a little bit about the energy log. But what you have to understand here, depending on the certain purposes of your app, of the project which you're working on, you would be using different instruments. And I would like to show you that most of the time, it is still better to do some things manually, to do them as soon as you came up with an idea, as soon as you decide what actually you want to do. So you see a certain place in your code which you're not sure, or you're sure, and you just test it, and you always see how it behaves instantly if you use debugger instruments. And we will work through it. So to go to instruments, to understand how it works, we will first walk through the main elements which consuming battery on the phone. I briefly mentioned that there are lots of them, and some of them are main, but we will always start with CPU. Central processing unit is a major consumer of energy, and it does so because everything relies on it, and this is how it is. And first problems which you will see every time if you look for any battery problems, if you improve CPU performance, how heavy you use your task on the CPU, most probably you will get better work on battery, less drainage. So it is workload dependent, as far as you understood, because everything relies on it. And what should we do? Do not wake it as possible. And when I say wake, I mean that there is, I'm sure pretty everyone is aware what is overhead, what is fixed cost, what is dynamic cost of starting your hardware and everything. So we don't want to, in case of CPU, every time you awaken it, it costs a lot. So to make less impact on a battery, you should in the cases where you can, you should coalesce all the work, you should batch it, you should group all the tasks that you want to do and do it all at once. And that's why we come into the time performance. And it's usually the thing which you care most about, like how fast is it working, why it's glitching somewhere, why it is here slow, kind of, and you want to do it faster. And actually faster means less energy impact, because I just explained. It's less impact on CPU, because energy in general is dependent on two things, on power and on time. And we operate these two things. So we first talk about mostly about the time, because faster always means less energy. So when you think about time, you just do it faster, and you don't forget to prioritize. You should, if you talk about anything which you want to try to improve, you should first determine the most important aspect that you want to improve. You should understand how, when, how much, and what kind of work your app is doing. Then you point to this. You can use Time Profiler to optimize. I hope it will now work. But what I want to show you now is there is a simple app, just like for the proof of concept, which will show you how bad code could affect the performance of the app and the battery consumption of your app, and how simple changes might make a significant change. So what we have here, we will test CPU here, location issues, networking issues, and background issues. I guess it will be just enough to show you how easy it could be, and how sometimes things which we just didn't think about it, and we could just run it into the instruments, into the debugger, and we will instantly see if something is not right. How we would see them. So hopefully, yeah, it works perfect. CPU. So let's imagine we have an app which converts text images to and presents them on the screen. We have a collection view here, and it's already reusing cells, and it's already optimized in some way, which is good, which is a good thing. But the operation which we're trying to do here is really, really hard. So if we will call this code each time we want to, so we have here an emoji. Now our case is emojis. So if we will call this text each time we want to convert emoji text to emoji picture, this is what will happen. Yeah, right. So this is Time Profiler. They go into the Time Profiler with the code I just showed you, and we play our app there. So we will see how instantly when we are scrolling, and yeah, you see how big these peaks are. And actually, if we will just see what calls this, we will go to the main thread here, and we'll see here what is actually, you see how many times it called. This is horrible, and we don't want that. So what we can do here is just an example, again, proof of concept. We can make it better while we, instead of calling it each time, because we already have limited numbers of emoji, it could be anything really. Let's cache them, so we don't have to convert them again and again. And let's see how it will affect our picture in Time Profiler. So Time Profiler will show it only how it affects the CPU. It will definitely improve the battery usage as well. And we will see the peaks are already much smaller. It does work much faster, obviously. And this is, if you compare the pictures, I don't know how good you see them, you can instantly see the difference. Easy, not too much work, and it's fantastic. Let's now talk about the location. And if we talk about the location issues, it's usually not high in power, really. It doesn't take much power in general, but it's really, really time consuming, because what we do with applications, we ask them, and then we just do it for a long time. And this is what is bad here. It's also about the accuracy and about the frequency. How often you ask for it, and how you actually, every time you work in a application, you have to think how accurate you want to request the position, the location itself, how accurate your numbers should be, how often you should do it. Really, this is hard question sometimes to ask, but if you have something simpler, you can always think about it. You can always make it better by. So we think that the faster, the more work we do, more features we have, more things we have, the users feels better because we want best for them. Sometimes it's better to do less. And here, efficiency will be accuracy, caring about the accuracy. What should we do? Again, work when needed and stop when done. Coming back to the user-driven work. Only when needed and stop when done. The example. So just a simple example, we'll request a location. We set it that we desire the best accuracy here, and we want to update it always. Let's see how it looks in Energy Debugger. Well, you should get used to it. Sometimes it is slow, but we instantly see how this location, yellow snake, grows and grows and grows. And you see that the energy impact is low. So you shouldn't be concerned, but it is strange. It's still there. So what you actually seeing here, and what you should point attention to, it is continuously there. And let's just change this line of code. What if we will need location only once? Let's imagine our user, we just want the location of a car of a user, or we just want just a single time. We don't want it always. We just change it, and let's see how it affects the battery consumption. So the energy impact on the start is 0, and it will remain so. Yeah, it's working. You see the little display is there, but there is nothing from location at all. And this is how would you expect it. This is what you would expect in the first one. If the actual purpose of you asking location would be ask it once, and you just said, I want it always because I want to know, and I want to have the best accuracy possible. Probably you also don't need it. There we set it for 3 kilometers because it's also probably we don't need it super accurate. So it's just little things that you can think about and ask yourself this question. How accurate we want it, how often we want it. Let's come to the networking. With networking, it is traffic dependent, and it is topic what you just need to understand what you actually want to do here. And always when you are able, you should call these transfers, you should batch them, group together, and this will reduce this fixed cost of starting the hardware. You will not wake the CPU, and you will lose, you will use less energy, so you will lose nothing. I also want to first talk about graphics here, because my next example will kind of have a little bit from each. And if we talk about graphics, it is animations and UI dependent. It is also complexity dependent. So more rendering means more energy is consumed. And what should we do here? Reduce complexity when it is possible. There's also where I think when we were so a little thing about low power mode. Then your app can take additional steps to help the system to save the energy when the low power mode on the phone is active. For example, your app in that case could reduce the animations, low frame rates. If we talk about location, stop location updates, disable things and backups and so on, and many things. It is very useful to think about low power mode because users start to using it more frequently. And when it comes to graphics, when graphics are important in your apps, it is good to help the system, to communicate with it, to help the system to optimize it the way you would expect, the way you would love users to see it, even if they have such issue and they want to use low power mode. Let's go to the network case in my app. So we can have a collection view here with image views. And for each cell, we want to make a request to fetch an image, and its dimensions here we set to 3000 to 2000 because we want a good quality. And it's obvious that we don't need them, but it's quite common mistake. And let's say you request a profile picture bigger than you actually mean. So that's things sometimes happens, and let's see how we can improve that. Let's see this code, how it looks in Energy Debugger. This is beautiful, I think. So many colors. So you see how hard it is on network, that the energy impact is high. Here you clearly see the problem. But let's see what you can do with it. Let's just set it to the size of the window in our collection view. But you know, for different sizes of the devices, you can give you can set it that it will give different sizes for different devices, different sizes of images. It's better to do it like that, but for the sake of showing you the proof of this concept, we will just do like that. And let's see how it works in Energy Debugger. And you see it's much better. The energy impact is low, everything is perfect. It will change slightly because it's obviously it does have to do this work, but it does it much better. Simple things makes a good impact. Let's talk about the background because we have 10 minutes left and I will try to be as fast as possible. Background. There are lots of things happening in background which could appear in background. Lots of tasks which could be performed. But the only rule for the background is the fast and rare work will make less energy impact. So if you don't have to do anything, don't do it. Same thing as works for anything. Don't use any resources if you don't need to. But here it is very important to learn how to communicate with the system to get your stuff done properly without affecting significantly the work and background in general. If I'll have time, I will tell you a little bit what I learned about it in general, but I highly recommend you to watch Advances in App Background Execution. I will post a link later from WWDC 2019. This is an amazing talk. It gives you everything which you have to know about the background and how to communicate with the system efficiently. There is a case, one of the most frequent cases of problems of drainage of battery in the background is plain silent audio. I was a little bit confused, but I decided to take it as an example. There's also lots of things like performing allocation updates, interacting with Bluetooth accessories, downloads, what could be different, and so on. But we will talk about the plain silent audio. So we have a simple code here, which what it does, it takes a file, it creates a player, and the number of loops here is -1, which means it will play in loops. So it can be just your playlist, which you're playing over and over again, which you have tracks over and over again. So the idea here is that you can play it in the background and it should be no problem. But if you turn the sound off, if you decrease it, it still plays. And this is how it affects the battery. Again, we go to the Energy Debugger. And we just went to the background. And you will not see your app suspended at all until it will be forced by the system to get suspended. maybe, because nobody has any like certain numbers after which time your app will be suspended. It comes randomly. So you see this long gray snake. You shouldn't have it. So let's change something. We can use key value observation here, which will observe a specific value. In our case, it will be the output volume. And if volume is lower than 0.01, it should stop playing. And let's see how it works. So you saw it on the picture. So this is how it looks in the background. And what we will see here is our app will go to the background right when the display is off, and then at a certain point it will get suspended because it stopped playing in the background when we turn off the sound. And this is beautiful. This is what is happening. Again, low energy impact, nothing happens, but this is just the thing that you should look for, which is not expected, and it is always a good thing to do. I don't think we have much time to talk about the background, but this is all what you can find in advances in background execution. So it is just in general, it is about completing the tasks in the background which you have, because users always expect immediate completion of a task. So you can protect this completion. So it will be completed, then the task. So your task will be completed even if you're in the background. So you how do you say protected. And then there's also when the task is expired, here we just talk about this code a little bit. We should cancel the operation and notify the user about the message if the task is expired. So it's just also ways to communicate with system properly. You can also defer with the downloads for the better times, which was what I was talking about. And it's also the really cool thing that you can do now is that you can set there's just certain ways how you can communicate with system to get it done. It was when they were talking about the downloaded best attachments. It's just like, let's imagine a user logs into the app on a different device and just downloaded it. And it is really bad idea to start to download old files instantly. Why not to do it at the time when the device is plugged into the socket and it does have a better Wi-Fi or wherever. You can communicate with the system when you want it to be done, because you're worrying, because you want the best experience for your user. This will help you to determine when you will ask these questions, like when the user might need these old files. You might need something instantly, like if it is a messenger, it might be the previous conversations and something which is important for him for him or her at the time when he's using the app. But some things which he might not use instantly, it's better to do it later. And this is how you will communicate with system about it. You can say timeout intervals, you can say time windows for it, and you can tell the system the workload size, like, so it can expect how much you want to send and receive, which is awesome, I think. A word about metrics. This is an amazing tool. It is very useful for long-term things. We can use XCTEST metrics. We can use metrics organizer with METRICKIT about different things. It is really easy to subscribe to them, and really easy to. So this is about how you can collect metrics with XCTEST. This is just an example how you can measure your launch time, which is pretty cool. I didn't know they could do it, but it's really nice. This is how you can adopt the METRICKIT. And what I want to say here, why you would to do it. It's a very easy way to receive metrics daily. So what it does, you will just get them gathered together every 24 hours. And what you just do, you from so like it could be easy to incorporate here. All you need to do is for some part of your app, you put a metric subscriber, and you do it in an app delegate because it's the entry point of your app, and this is just the obvious way to put it. And in you added to the shared MX metric manager. So iOS will automatically collect samples while your app is being used, and once a day, every 24 hours as I said, it will send it an aggregate report with this metric. So again, in one batch. Yeah, I'm coming to the end because I don't have time. We have 2 minutes. So tips for success. 2 tips. Measure whenever you can. Whenever you can. As soon as you start, it will get much easier with time. Is it just make it your habit? Make it just a part of your work, because you know already that batteries also means a good performance. To sum up, 3 important things of the strategy while building any iOS app without thinking about battery optimization is prioritizing your work, thinking about why you're doing certain things, when, how often, with whom, I don't know, everything there. Make it user-driven and trust the system. Also, optimize battery usage for your app is important for better experience of your users and for the success of your app. This is what you should be talking with your team or with your manager or with anybody who is making the decisions which features you are going to implement soon. There are various ways to minimize battery usage. Go through each resource which you're using, as we did today. Little things, they add up. Sometimes they are not visible. You still see low energy impact. You still see something it's okay, it doesn't glitching, but then you see it, an energy debugger or anything, something which is easier to use, you can instantly see the problem, because something which you don't expect to be there, that's a problem. That's usually the case where you should start. And test as often as possible, as I already said. The sooner you start, the better it will be. Also, one thing I want to say. There is a quote which I really, really love. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. So if we, as a community, will care about the battery usage, it will be fantastic, and it will be a great change. Because I believe in our community. It's a fantastic place to be. Further links and reading. I will post a huge link to this presentation with all the links I used and everything which I found about the battery optimization so far. If you have a link which you would like to share with me, your own article which you read, something, any presentation, anything which you would like, any resource which might help and contribute to it, I will gladly add it there. Let's help the community to care about batteries more. Thank you very much, and see you in the speaker's corner soon. Or if we have some time for questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Aleksandra. That was really beautiful. We have a few questions here. So the first one is if there are any examples of ways you've optimized your apps, and what was the hardest optimization you had to deal with?
There was nothing super hard, and honestly, I never had like the real case when I really, really needed. But the same thing with was with the networking which I did. That's the issue which I had. So I asked for the better quality of the images, and it did make a better results when I optimized it to the lower quality. It was much better. That's the case.
Okay, thank you. Another question about measuring the impact of applying the strategy, either locally in a single app or on a wider global scale.
So on a wider global scale, it's hard. And as I said to you, there are really lots of research paper, and one big one which I will post in the further links ring, which will like tell you everything what have been done in past 10 years on a way to understand how that actually everything impacts, or what is it in the device, to the battery drainage. So this is a really, really hard questions to ask, and we can't do anything like that. But the more we know about it, the better it gets, and the more people interested in that, the better it will be in a global scale. But locally in a single app, it's the best way you can do it. Everything which you does for yourself, every little feature which you want to test, it's good to do so. Because also, nobody wants, if you think about also the performance and battery consumption, or you just your own experience as a user, you go to the settings and you see the battery consumption there, you're getting crazy, like, why? What did you do in the background for like 2 hours? Really, I want to delete this app after that. That's what I did with Facebook, sorry. Next question, please.
Yes, thank you. Any recommendations for optimization of repeating animations?
Well, the best thing which you can start with is work with the certain conditions when the user decides that work with the system when, for example, user decides you want to use low power mode. Probably, if that's the case, system can themselves stop using these animations. But the thing what you can do, you can tell the system how you want to be, how you want your app or certain things in your app behave in these conditions. So first thing to start here is to work with certain conditions which occurs on the user's devices. And that's the place to start. And this is how you will make a first step to optimize it. And the last question?
Thank you. What is your experience with this topic from a project lead or financial perspective?
Can you please read it again? I didn't see the full question.
What is your experience when it comes to the importance and acceptance of this topic from a project or financial perspective?
Well, I never had this case myself, but as I explained, I talked with a lot of people after the previous talks which I gave on a similar topic, and that's why I gave a separate slide why your manager should care, or why your team should care, or why your project lead should care. From a financial perspective, as I explained already, it's just mostly always affecting performance. And what I meant there is that they shouldn't even know what you're doing. They shouldn't know what it is for battery optimization, because it will affect the performance. And if you say to them, I have a few tasks which will make our performance better, they will say, go, please do. And that's probably how you can approach that kind of problem.
Thank you very much. So right now, I would like to ask you to go to the 3D world and meet our attendees in the speakers corner for the next 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes before the next talk. Right now, I will start the poll for rating. So our audience, please go and rate this talk. It was very interesting. I was really excited. This is a very, I think, very important topic these days. Because considering all that is happening globally, we really need to focus on environment and saving energy. So I think this was very interesting and important. Thank you again, Aleksandra. Have a nice day. And for the rest of you, we will meet again in 9 minutes for the last talk on the main stage today. Thank you and bye.
Thank you.